The play is good. Okay, so I'd like to ask you a question. This is the name of the ghetto we want to know, and you should, state the dates that you stayed there, and, the following questions give all the relevant details for all the ghettos which you were in.
Until August 42, we were home under all kinds of restricted conditions, but it was an open town. We can more or less circulate free. But the end of August, approximately the 20th or before, August 1947, they started coming, all kinds of rumors that they are going to organize a ghetto, and the rest of the Jewish population is going to be deported. The destination of the deportation nobody knew, but there were all kinds of rumors, and most of them bad. But as usual in a situation like this, nobody liked to believe the rumors which were going around. The justification for the ghetto was based on that only able-bodied people should remain in the ghetto. They organized all kinds of shops who were working for the army, like sewing shops and shoe working shops, and etc. To get into this position like this, it was very difficult. Usually it were people privileged who were able to pay for that privilege by money or by... it was organized through the Jewish community leadership, which was the Judenrat. But in the meantime, the rumors were varying, and they started to say, I think at the last moment, which was 25th of August, where the deportation was taking place, until that everybody was under the impression that it will be a ghetto. In the meantime, with our family, happened something which helped us to change, to help us save ourselves. And that was the fact that a half a year before, which happened before too, that groups were sent to various places, working to camps. But before Pesach the same year, it was sent away a group not far from Wieliczka. It was between Wieliczka and Krakow, Plaszów. It was a concentration or labor camp, either way you can call it. because it was under the SS management. It was a camp.
This doesn't have to do with the ghetto.
Well, but it was not far from the camp was the Krakow ghetto.
I thought we can get back to that later. Maybe I should continue the questions, and then when we do, you guys okay? All right. So, were you in the same town before the ghetto was set up?
Well, I was in the same. I was in Vielichka, but the fact was that they did not allowed a ghetto, and they just liquidate the whole Jewish population by deporting them. They put them into wagons, which the capacity of it was transport wagons, train cars. The capacity was about 40 people to put in, and they have been squeezed about 80 until 100.
Okay. What was the ghetto, when was the ghetto in your town set up?
It was not set up. It was not set up. It was just a rumor. Not a rumor. It was actually said that they are going to do it. And the same way how do you say that they lured them? The people were unprepared. They were prepared for that somebody is going to remain in the city. And therefore, a lot of people were misled this way. They depended that if they say, because it was already a ghetto in Krakow, so it had all the rights and promises that they are going to make a ghetto here too.
Okay, now what anti-Jewish actions were taken before the ghetto was established? You know, like including pogroms, things like that, organized, by Germans or other people.
I wasn't in the place at that time, because as soon as there was announcement that there's not going to be a ghetto but a deportation, I was hiding in a place together with my father, and my brothers were in the camp nearby in Plaszów. There were two of them which were for a few months already there. But when they heard that it's going to be something which they didn't know if they are going to organize a ghetto, but there will be some deportation. And they heard from the rumors what is happening in other towns. So they came back from the camp, from there illegally, and organized this how should I say, we tried to organize to liquidate our house, our home. That's what they said. That was their belief, that the Germans, you cannot have any trust, you cannot trust them, because if something is going to happen, you never know what is going to happen. The best thing is to be hidden.
Okay,
so that's why they organized this, the older two, that they took two younger brothers away with them back into the camp. They wanted, it wasn't a Shabbos, they wanted to take along my father. But on the way, he met friends, and they asked him why he is going away. And he had a quite secure place, a working place, which others did not have. And he felt very guilty for leaving all his friends, to want to be smarter than anybody else. So being already on his way to the camp together with my brothers, he went back into the town. But then
Okay, that's enough for this now. Were there any refugees from other places who ran into where you lived?
Yes.
Okay, now can you give the details regarding them, you know, the number, the place of origin, how people treated them, you know, when they arrived?
Well, first of all, there were a lot of refugees who came from before the war from Germany, who had been sent from sponge shooting. Originally Polish Jews, but living in Germany for quite a number of years. So they sent them to Sponge from Sponge they came to Wieliczka, and they were living until 42 among the other population. They have been helped by establishing some ways of living and with whatever possible. It was quite a nice organized cooperation. Besides this, since 1939 and 40, when they organized the ghetto in Krakow, they limited the Jewish population to a very small number. I don't know exactly. And therefore, most of the Jewish population spread around wherever they had some other family or relatives they went, or friends. And from this time it was quite a large number of people came from Krakow and established themselves in Wieliczka until the deportation in 42.
Okay, were you allowed to leave this ghetto, whatever? Were you allowed to leave the place?
No.
Never at all?
Never, only under special permission, which has to be signed by the Gestapo, by the police.
Okay, now what was the approximate size of the ghetto? Do you know?
Well, it was...
was it more than one ghetto in the same town? How did it work?
It could be referred into Krakow, because in Wieliczka it did not come to that point that they established. First they set up a place where the ghetto is supposed to be, few streets where a certain section called Klasna, which was an old part of the city where originally Jews lived centuries ago. So that was the place which was appointed for a ghetto. But they did not come to it because they liquidated completely.
Right.
At
you
once.
weren't a refugee. You were in the ghetto itself, right?
I wasn't in it.
Was there a wall or a fence or barbed wire of any physical boundary?
No.
Now, the organization of the guards at the gates...
Well, this could be referred to the Krakow ghetto, which
you weren't in it, so
I were, but my parents were. They escaped from...
All right. You want me to stop?
You have it down?
Yeah. All right, so in your Wieliczka itself, there was
no ghetto.
There weren't guards either.
No.
Okay, now when did you know the truth about the extermination, you know, the gas chambers and everything? When did you find
The rumors were already when in 41. There were rumors by the Gentile populations. The population was going around the rumors that there's a mass killing of all kinds. But about guessing, we didn't know until 42.
Now, did you have any personal...
But we did not believe in it.
Yeah. Do you have any personal or family plans to escape?
That's what I started to talk about when it was 42. It was initiated by my brothers.
Oh, the other day?
Not here. my brothers in 42, when they came to the camp in Plaszów, they were a privileged group because of the president from the Judenrat. She was very influential in this. She was very successful. She had a lot. She had good connections, and therefore she was able to organize and give this group, which came from Bielorussia to work on the SS and camp, special privileges. First, they didn't have to stay in the camp, Plaszów. They were coming by train every day home and to work. So therefore, they were actually like a working group. But at the same time, in work, they were working together with other Jews who came from other part of Galicia, where the deportation had taken place already. The places were completely Judenrein, as they call them. There were no Jewish, and they were describing how the deportation is taking place, the scenes, how it happens, how it looked. So, and besides this, some of the people my brothers knew from before. They had connections. There was some Chassidim from all these stories that we heard when it came before the deportation in Wieliczka. They asked the Germans, demanded a contribution, they called, a certain amount of sum, a huge sum of money. Afterwards, we found out that this money was supposed to take care of the financial costs of the deportation. So the Jews had to pay for all the expenditures. But at that time, we were under the impression that we are giving a contribution to pay out, to bribe them, that they should allow us to stay, not to deport us, because we did a deportation just to evacuate us to a different part of Poland. So everybody, under this impression, everybody tried to contribute to more he could. He gave. But when my brothers heard about this announcement of the contribution, they knew that in the other places before the deportation happened the same thing. So they knew that this is what we have to be afraid of. And when they came home, actually at that time they didn't let them go anymore. They put them into a camp which was under the SS guards. The guards were actually Lithuanian and Ukrainian, under barbed wire. So from then they knew that something is going to happen, and they started to organize something against it. So they went illegally, naturally. If they would be caught, they would be killed. They came home and they demanded that all of us that we have to hide. It was for the 24th, approximately the date, 24th of August. It was an order that everybody has to take per person 25 kilo of goods, his belongings, not more. That much was allowed, and everybody has to the people had to get it on a marketplace. And that was the allowance of taking a loan. So we decided that the first thing what they are doing is that they are taking a loan, my father and the two younger brothers, which one was 17 years and the other 16. To take me together, my mother tried to organize to look for a place by a Gentile to hide until it will be passed the action. That's what it was called, the action of deportation. And I had a working place. What was... So this way I was in a place working with 50 other girls which belonged to, it was a farm, working for the soldiers, for the army, for the German army. But I suspected that something is not in order, and I went back to the city. When I went back to the city, it was on Shabbos, in the middle of August. And I saw that the city is surrounded with police. There were all kinds of police, German police and Polish, Ukraine, because I tried to go back into that was outside of the town, the place was a farm outside, a few kilometers outside. But I couldn't because the city was, the town was completely surrounded. All the small ways and the main highways, everything was, there was no way of going back because the first thing they ask you about the papers, and they knew that I'm Jewish. So I came home and I didn't find anyone there. I went to my cousin, which I found there still. We had organized a hiding place. She had hidden her family by a Gentile outside of the town. Being that I couldn't go out, I told her it's a safe place where I was working. Afterwards it turned out that it was not, that all the 50 girls went together with the deportation, with the whole town. It turned out, for my luck, it was my luck that I found my cousin who she had a place, a hiding place outside of the town. And this way she took me, she didn't know that the town is already surrounded with police and but this way she had a way. It was actually through the help of a Gentile friend of hers that she took us out of the city by a few people, and we went out. That was on Shabbos. What had happened until the deportation, which has taken place on Wednesday, it was supposed to. They were supposed to deport them on Shabbos or Sunday. They called it back. What exactly happened there, I don't know. Only what I heard from others who survived, it was some men who have been taken out from the groups were sent away to some working camps. But I was hiding by a Gentile. He kept us just for 1 or 2 days. Then he got frightened and he sent out us from his house. But close by his house were bushes, and that was the place where we were hiding through the week, a few days there. And it was exactly by the rails where the train road, that train road. And the side of the train road was...
He knew you were hiding in the bushes by his house?
Yes, he knew it, but he was afraid even to come to the bushes. We were just sending a small boy eventually to bring us a baked potato. But the last day before nobody came to us. We were fast and we didn't have any contact. We didn't know what is happening. We just knew that it is happening, something terrible.
Okay, so is that the whole escape?
This is the, well, it's not the, that was the plan that how we escaped.
They jumped to the concentration camp?
They didn't pick me up. I had to run away. First of all, it was that we heard the whole night. It was not far away from the place where they transported the people on the trains. So we heard the cryings and it was a horrible experience. We were so frightened is not the expression. We were just, I just don't know the right expression for it, what it was. The whole night we were like living through with the people, because we heard the cries and it was like a wolf would go. The whole night.
Who was it? It was you and your father?
Me and my father. We were hiding there. And my aunt, from my family, my aunt and uncle, cousin, and other cousins.
Now, what did you eat in the ghetto? What did you get to eat? You know, the size of the ration, how did they distribute it, who distributed?
Well, I was not in the ghetto. So I don't know exactly how it happened. That was my parents there.
Yeah.
So I just had the information from them that they have, first of all, they were not legally.
So let's, I just wanted to ask you, was there outside, knowledge of what was happening outside Nazi territory, like in the radios, underground newspapers? Did you get letters?
No.
No, okay. Now the size of the living space, like how many people were in the apartment? How was the cooking arrangement? Did you have coal or
In the ghetto, some families lived in one room, about 10 people. I was not there, but my parents were in a place but they escaped from the village guns. The village guns liquidated, there was no sign anymore. Whoever was found afterwards hidden, they were killed. They were shot and killed.
I'm asking now about you itself in Village-Gun. Were there, pre-war political parties there? Was there any, Jewish leaders in the town before 1939?
What kind of a Jewish leaders? There was a president, the Kurdish force there, which was representative of the Aguda. Belonged to the Aguda group. It was mainly an Orthodox. It was a Zionistic, well-organized Zionistic organization.
So that was
but predominant was the Orthodox people.
Okay, now what happened to these leaders during the war,
They went through with the deportation.
They were deported. Now what was the first, you didn't have a Judenrat?
We had a Judenrat in village class.
Okay.
That was the woman, she was the president. She was appointed by the Bürgermeister from the town.
Now how was the development of the Judenrat as far as the leadership and organization are concerned?
According to my opinion, it was very well organized. They were very capable people, and they really tried very hard to do the best under such difficult circumstances and conditions.
Okay. So the other tape, you described the origin and the background of this lady who was the head of the Judenrat, right? I believe you described it. We don't have to go through that.
Yeah.
Now, answer question 19. That's regarding the same thing with the Jewish police. Like, how many policemen were there? Did you say that also before?
Yes, they were, but mainly, as I say, it was not a bad element. There was most of them people who tried to do really the best, even though that some of the people who remain alive don't share my view.
The policemen were okay to you? They didn't have the
yes.
big ones, like...
Yeah, I think that they really sincerely tried to do the best.
Okay, very good. Now the second one here is, this is about you belong to Aguda, you said, right?
Yes.
So I hear it says, to what political and social organization did you belong before the war? So that, and during the ghetto period was the Aguda. Was it?
No, it was more element, I would say, Zionistic element.
Zionistic element. Now, any underground organization?
No.
And were your activities, okay, so you weren't, no rebellion or anything like that?
No, it was just, I would call, passive rebellion that was already, that we tried to organize help with food, which everything was forbidden.
Did you have any contact with other Jewish groups in the ghetto?
It was well organized. I mean, it was not separate groups. It was everything was done together, whatever it was undertaken.
Were there contacts with the Aryan side?
We didn't have a ghetto, so therefore.
So you can't, okay. So no weapons
at
or anything
period,
like
before the deportation, it was a little of cooperation from the Gentile, I would say.
Okay, so this is in connection with the concentration camp Flashout. Now, when was your date of arrival, and by what method of transportation did you come?
I came because I escaped from the deportation in August from Vierichka. I was hiding about a week time, and then we came by way, hiding in the fields. We came towards the camp. Knowing that my brothers are there, I tried to contact them at the workplace, which was not far from the camp. And I tried with the group to smuggle into the camp. That was possible because at the arrival post in the camp there were Jewish police. Therefore they let us in. But the camp was completely surrounded with the Ukraine, which were under watchtowers. But sometimes happened that the camp, the Sturmführer, SS Sturmführer, the head of the camp, was at the arrival door, at the arrival post. So when this happened, always were actions of shooting, if it was too many, because he was counting, and it was more than went out to work. They always fished out the people who wanted to smuggle in. But we were successful, that it was just Jewish police, and this way we were able to smuggle illegally into the camp. But he heard about it. He knew that there are some people in the camp, women especially, because women were not permitted. It was just a men camp. So therefore, during the night, he came with a big dog, training shepherd, German shepherd, into the camp to catch all the people, who were illegally. At night, he had done it by surprise. This way he should be able to, and he caught, because we were not the only one who escaped, who came to the camp. So we heard the dog coming, people start, it just happened that I was in a barrack a little bit further from there, and I heard it. So we jumped out the windows there were some field clothes in the camp, dugouts. So I happened to run out and hide in the dugout. There was somebody next to me too. And my mother, which escaped too, she was some other place, but one didn't know from the other. And these people whom he had caught, he took and sent them to the Krakow ghetto, which they were kept in a separate place, ghetto there. That was the name. And from this ghetto there, constantly were going out transports, which we knew the destiny already at that time. More or less we knew what is happening to the people. So I was successful in escaping. That was going on continuing for quite a few weeks. But the Jewish, the head of the police, through money, he tried to bribe this Shafir that he should give permission for some work like cleaning and things for women. That's how he got the Jewish administration in the camp got permission for the women to be legally there. That was not an easy procedure because they had to get the okay from the headquarters in Krakow, from the Gestapo. And this, in Krakow, that was the headquarters of all Poland, occupied Poland. But seemingly with money at that time, it was, there were ways that they got permission.
Describe the location, the size of the camp. Can you do that?
The location was, I mentioned before, it was between Krakow and Wieliczka.
Right, and the guard system?
The guard system was Ukraine, right. Most of them Ukraine, under the leadership of the SS.
Right. And how big was it, the camp?
It was about, it was 3 camps under the same leadership in Plaszów. But I was in the main, Plaszów, Plaszów, which was under this leadership, the main, which was called Plaszów. There were Bierzynów, out commander, also under the same leadership, Lager, and it was Prokochin. And it was Ulak, which was closer to Krakow. It was actually on the outskirts of Krakow. Okay. This one in which I was.
Name the commanders, the officers and the men that you remember, if you don't remember.
In Ulak, I remember the head of the camp. At the beginning, it was somebody else, whom they removed because he was a little bit too friendly with the Jews. And it was appointed a different one, which is well known, Shafir Miller. He is living in Germany. I mean, he was condemned to life. He got a life sentence imprisonment.
Can you characterize him?
Well, to a certain extent, he was a young man, and basically he was easy to bribe, which most of them were, but being that he was a Shafir, SS Shafir, he followed orders, but as long as he was not drunk, he was negotiable. It was possible. They had ways how to bribe him, how to compromise. But the conditions were very difficult, very unhygienic. It was in this ULAC place 1,500 people, 1,500 approximately, and it was about 15 barracks. It was very, very dirty. There was lack of water, and the rationing of food was very bad.
Okay. How many Germans guard the camp?
There in this camp were actually just few.
And how many non-Germans?
Non-Germans was about 20.
Or were they Ukrainian?
Ukrainian.
Mm-hmm. And were the Germans that did guard the camp, were they SS or did they belong?
SS.
They were SS, okay. Do you remember any incidents that could be used to accuse individual Nazis as war criminals?
It was him. I don't recall others, except that I was in the working place where I was working as a secretary in a private office. It was a firm.
In this camp?
It was not outside of the camp. We were sleeping in the camp and going out to work, groups. Most of the groups were working by railroad, boarding the railroad from west borders of Germany to the east borders of Poland towards the Russian front. And these camps were mainly employed in the building of roads.
Okay, so about the war criminals?
I was working in a place which was a Viennese building firm. Before the war, it was a Jewish firm, but it was taken over by the Nazis, and it was led by private undertakers. And most of the people were private Germans who had been employed before in the same firm. But among them we were also newcomers, that the Germans themselves, the old-timers, used to say that they are party members, civil party members, of whom they personally are afraid, because they are just for that purpose in the place to spy on them and just to spy. And the fact is that the head of this, he was called... Close it. It was the Baumeister of the firm, which employed a few hundred workers. It was 250 Jewish workers, and besides this there were some Polish workers which were not that paid. And they were quite a number, about 50 German workers too, professionals by what they needed, a special kind of work which was done by Germans. They were hungry, I sometimes ate and sometimes but as bad as it was, I had to fill my stomach with it in order to...
Okay, can you describe the daily routine?
We got up at 5 in the morning. We did not have the ability to wash ourselves. There were 2 crowns, and they were always crammed with people. So if I didn't prepare a little bit from the day before, a little water to wash my face and my hands, I couldn't do it. I had to go to work without washing. We stayed outside for an hour on a field to count us. Count and recount. That was going on for an hour. Afterwards, it was about 6 or 6:30. We went for our rations of bread, which we got in the morning. And sometimes they give the rations once a week of the bread. But we got a little bit coffee, which was dark water, I don't know with what, colored water, warm water. That's what everybody got in the morning. We had to stay in a line, which was taking an hour. So approximately about 7 o'clock, I think we walked out, or before. It must have been because 7 o'clock, I think we had to be already at work, at the workplace, which has taken an hour walk. An hour to march to walk. And then it started to work until it was 12 hours work. It was an interruption of lunchtime for half an hour. So depended on the supervisor. If the group had a morning supervisor, they let him a little rest. It was more lenient with it. But in this camp, if somebody had some money from home, he was able to help himself. But otherwise, if you had to live just on this what they were giving, it was impossible to survive.
So after you had half-hour lunch, and then you had to work till
6 or 7, this I don't know exactly.
Yeah, and then what happened?
Then it was a gathering of the group and counting, which didn't take so long because it was done by the Jewish group of viewers, as they call them, and Jewish police supervising the group of viewers. And we came to the camp. At the door of the camp was usually by the SS counted, and Jewish police, double counting. If it is the same amount of people who went out, that God forbid they shouldn't smuggle in some additional people, which it happened. It happened that they were hiding some people outside of like from Violichka, they were during the time always some people escaped the deportation, or so they came in, or from ghetto, Krakow ghetto.
Were there any attempts to escape from the camp itself?
Yes, there were attempts, and there were some people who escaped, ran away.
Okay, was there an organized underground resistance?
No,
resistance?
no.
No contact with the outside?
No.
Okay.
Just the opposite. It was
completely cut off.
We're completely not only cut off, but we knew that we are in danger to go out because there were some attempts to hide, to run away from the camp and to hide by the Gentiles, and they were killed by the Gentiles or delivered to the police.
Were there people killed? How, when?
Very often by the slightest pretext, the slightest excuse if they had by the Germans. If they found some food in the pocket that they brought from outside, or the slightest excuse they had were constant killing. And the worst thing was that when they organized orgies, the Germans, and they did it quite often by all kinds of occasions, holidays, then we knew that that something is going to happen. And this camp especially, it happened at the beginning of the camp. A terrible experience that the Oberscharführer got drunk, and he had a barrack outside of the camp. So he came into the camp, into a barrack which was specially assigned for the administration. And this administration was the head of the administration, the Jewish head of the administration. There was a doctor and his wife living, and they were living in more privileged conditions, not so crowded and more cleaner, and even the food was better for them. They were a privileged category. And there were a dentist, his private dentist with his wife, and a brother of his. And he happened to walk into this barrack with his shepherd. And he ordered the shepherd to kill the dentist. And while he the shepherd dog threw himself on the dentist, he was screaming, and afterwards he killed him. And the screams were heard all over the camp. Everybody, in the way we felt, this is understandable how scared, how horrified we all were. It was a Jewish, yeah, it was Jewish. So there were 5 people killed after a play that he was conducting with the dog. They were screaming. The more they were screaming, the more he was encouraging the dog to tear them a piece. To tear them. In this barrack. There were some people who escaped from this. They had rooms, large rooms, in the barrack.
Is this
comfortably. It was Mela, yeah.
So were there any actions in the camp?
What?
Okay, so you could get with that. Was there any attempt for cultural activity?
There was no time for it. The people came so exhausted and so beaten down that there was no possibility for anything.
Were there any children in the camp?
Yes.
Hidden
That
children?
time there were hidden children.
You know how many of them?
About 15 children. I mean, if you call children until the age of 13, 15.
What was the relationship between the Jewish inmates? Was there like antagonism?
There was a lot of antagonism, yeah.
Between like
Fiendish.
different towns that you posed, Poland
No,
and other
this
Jews?
I wouldn't say not because of it was just because of jealousy. Just if somebody had seen it, somebody had something more. It was just plain, the people were very irritable.
Between Jews and non-Jews?
There was no non-Jews.
Oh, well, right, in that camp there was. So do you know any details about this antagonism?
Well, main antagonism, I personally suffered a lot, I would say, because in the place where I worked, I was like a stranger. I was from a different town, and most of the people were from a different neighborhood, they were more in a group, so they kept together, and I suffered a lot because of this antagonism.
Did you receive help from fellow inmates?
Yes, I must say so.
Give me an example.
Well, I was very sick, and I had a lot of help from a doctor. He was a doctor by the Germans, working outside of the camp, but going together with the other workers to work. But whenever he came home, he didn't only help me, but helped others. But I had special attention from him. That was more as a reward because he was sick before, and I helped him a lot, which he expressed at that time the gratefulness to me and promised that he won't forget what I had done for him. And it's true that he had done a lot at that time.
Was there any, so there was medical attention?
You cannot call medical attention. The sick were left completely for themselves. It was just that it was help from the people itself, as much as they could with waters to sponge them, that's all.
So there just happened to be Jewish doctors, but they weren't like officially doctors?
No, they couldn't help. They didn't have any medication. They couldn't help.
Now, how about the clothing?
In this camp we had our own clothing, but which was so dirty because we wore it constantly. We didn't have anything what to change. Even if I had something taken along from home, I sold it. I tried to sell it to help myself alone to buy additional piece of bread.
Now, you didn't receive any mail, right? Because you said there was no contact.
No, it was once in the ghetto during this time that we got from outside through the Red Cross from Switzerland a letter from a family who escaped from Belgium. But this letter was going on for months until it came to us, a card.
Okay. All right, so you want to start this? The second campaign was Skazhisko. And please tell me the day of the arrival, your arrival at the camp, and by what method of transportation that you came.
You open?
Yeah, it's on.
Well, it was November 43 that it came an order, a higher order from Obersturmführer Get, who had supervised a camp not far away, Plaszow, which was called the Jerozolimska. Most of the people who had been on the Jerozolimska were groups, were people from ghetto, Krakow ghetto, which was liquidated a few months, half a year ago. So most of the people had been deported to places like Auschwitz or Belzec, because from there it was constantly from 42nd until 43 were constantly going transports to Belzec and Auschwitz. So the people whom they established in the camp, in the Plaszow Jerozolimska camp, was under the leadership of this Get, Obersturmführer Get. And he was the one who liquidated the camp in which we were. It was just 1 kilometer apart. We were sent, yeah.
Okay,
the camp was liquidated, but we were sent from our place to the camp Jerozolimska.
Right. By cars, you go by train?
Walking, that was just a half an hour walk. And there, at the entrance, we had gone through a segregation. One of my brothers were just taken away from me.
Wait. Did you arrive alone, first of all?
No. I came with 3 brothers.
3 brothers?
Which 2 were with me in this camp, and one was in another camp. these camps were liquidated, and all these workers were brought to the Jerusalemske. But on the Jerusalemske, where my parents were there, and my youngest brother.
Okay, now was there a selection on arrival?
There was a selection on the arrival, and I lost my brother, a 19-year-old boy, was picked out and shot.
And you knew right away what the selection meant?
We suspected something, but we didn't know until afterwards, because first of all we were showered with copes, with not sticks, rubber over our heads, pipes, whatever, over our heads. We were with I don't know how to express the six. We were so completely. We were completely so beaten down that we didn't realize what is happening around us. And then when it happened that they tore away one left and one right, and we didn't know who was going forward, but we suspected that something is.
Can you describe the location? That was, you said, right here,
yeah.
The other one, and the size? Was it bigger?
It was a large place. It was built on this Jewish cemetery. It was a huge place. It must have been a few thousand people barracked there.
Now, when was this camp set up?
This camp was set up in beginning 43.
Okay, and the guard system?
The guard system was by Ukrainians, but a lot of SS were. There.
Now, when was this camp set up?
This camp was set up in beginning 43.
Okay, and the guard system?
The guard system was by Ukrainians, but a lot of SS were supervising there, inside and outside.
Now, the commanders, the officers, and the men, you remember the same thing? You had Miller before. In this camp, was there anybody like him?
In this camp was the Sturmführer Get, which I mentioned before. There were others, but I don't recall the names. We were not long there. We were just kept in a quarantine for a few days, and we didn't know what is going to happen to us. We suspected the worst.
Could you characterize this man? What's his name?
This is difficult because I didn't see them.
Okay.
No.
Now, you said, how many Germans were there gone into camp? Can you approximate?
It was about 20.
And non-Germans?
About 50.
Okay, and the Germans were all belong to SS?
All SS.
All SS. So do you remember any incidents that, again, could be used to accuse individual Nazis of war crimes this time?
All of them had committed war crimes, killings, one way or another.
But do you remember any specific?
Not at that time when I was. It was just a few days that we were kept there, and from there we were sent to Skarżysko by train, freight trains, packed about 80 people in standing position in one train.
But isn't this
Freight train Tucson. That was still in Krakow, in Plaszow. It was a different...
but we are talking about...
Plaszow, Jerusalemsky. Now we were sent from there. We were in a quarantine. From there we were sent to Skarżysko, which had three camps, A, B, and C. And I was sent to Camp C, which was called Vernichtungslager. Whoever was punished in the other camps was sent into this place. And they sent others too. They needed work. It was an ammunition factory which existed from before the war.
So was there a selection on arrival to Sergisko itself?
No.
No selection. And you came alone?
I came with my mother, which was taken from the other place. I didn't know. It just by accident that I found out that she went with the same transport.
And what happened?
But with my two brothers.
And the other people in the family? Did you know what happened to the others then?
I knew that my father remained in Jerozolimska, in Krakow, and my youngest brother. And it was at that time when I lost he was killed on the Jerozolimska selection.
Okay, so now the size of the camp?
In Skarżysko, the size of the camp was approximately difficult to describe. It was about 25 barracks, very close one to another.
And the guards?
And the guards were again Ukrainians, but that was a terrible, like they themselves called it, a Vernichtungslager. The arrival went to describe how it looked, the camp, when we arrived there, when we saw what it looks like, and the people, how they look. It was people from Warsaw Ghetto after the uprising. So the one who survived, they were sent there. And they were not sent directly to Skarżysko. They had gone through Majdanek, and the one who survived from Majdanek was sent here. So when they came here, when we came, and my mother saw the people who are standing at the, not gates, but around they were just skeletons. And yellow skeletons, you couldn't recognize, they were so misshaped that you couldn't recognize a female from a male. Naked, without clothes, just with papers covered pieces of their body. When my mother saw it, she had lost her son who was killed a few days before. She said, thank God that he was shot, that he didn't have to live to come here, because eventually he would have to come to this stage to look the way these people look. This is our destiny. That's what is awaiting us. A slow death, and that kind of a death.
Okay, do you remember the commanding officers?
No, I don't remember the name, no.
Can you characterize them though?
No.
Okay. Now how the composition of the inmates this time? Were there any non-Jews there?
That was just
only
Jews. But among the Jews were quite a number of converts.
Jewish converts?
Not Jewish, I mean Gentile. That was Jewish who converted to Gentiles.
Oh,
Geschmack. And but according to Hitler's law, the Nazis' law, they were Jewish, so they had the children were outside their home, but they themselves were, it was next to my place, were a woman doctor, with a daughter. She was Jewish, Ishmat as a young woman, and she had a daughter along with herself, which was born actually a Gentile already, but they took her too.
Her husband was Jewish?
No. But her husband, she was a widow. So I guess the husband, if he wouldn't be a Jew, he would. But I was just wondering why the daughter was there too. An effect was that it was
Mischling of the first degree.
of the first year, Mischling, yeah. So it was a number of people, right?
So here there were both sexes, male and female.
Both sexes, yeah.
And the ages, can you approximate?
It was all over the same age. That was the age that they accepted. It was from 18,
Yeah.
well-developed 18,
Okay.
until 35. Past this age, they...
How about the numbers of the people? How many were altogether in the camp?
It was about 2,000
And the
approximately.
other camp, I forgot that's in Prussia.
In the quarantine where we were?
No, Prussia was...
It was the same thing I mentioned there
Same
before.
thing,
It was
okay,
approximately the same one.
The work, you said, consisted of bullets, you said?
It was an ammunition factory. It was all kinds of... It was a part... A factory which was working undermine explosive mines,
Right.
water mines, and at the mines, and that the chemical was very dangerous. That was a factory which existed before the war. It was a Polish factory. It was now rebuilt by the Germans and improved. But before the war, the Gentiles who were working as supervisors there, by the way, that it was a very rough element. They mistreated the Jews in a horrible way.
Okay, so that brings me to the capos.
But what I want to bring out with this, that this ammunition, it was before the war, the people who worked by this had to wear masks.
And you didn't wear any?
Masks, and they were only allowed to work 4 hours, and very high payments they received, and a special food, additional food, to help to resist the poison, because that was a poison.
What kind? Radioactivity?
It was not direct, but it was a dye, a chemical, very strong chemical, that the people working by them, they couldn't work more than a few months without any coverage. The clothes, what they were wearing, were falling apart from this stuff, so sharp. And the air, even that I didn't work at it, just every day passed by.
Yeah.
Just the air around was poisoned, that we got yellow from it. And these people got so yellow, the blood got poisoned, that they lost completely the look of a normal human being. The coloring of the eyes and the skin completely. The people couldn't live longer than 5 months, and they were just falling while walking, going to work. And as I mentioned before, when we saw that was skeleton work, skeleton. Even the one who didn't work directly at this work affected them. Then it were other, this work which I was working, it was a clean work. I was working by anti-aircraft bullets. It wasn't that developed. It didn't have missiles at that time.
What about the couples? Good
Well,
and
that
bad?
was Jewish couples. Most of them were bad. That also you can judge according to, to one they might be
but according to
individual.
you, as far as what you saw,
Very
they
bad.
were
It was the worst element that it
Could you
that
describe
had.
some incidents?
Yes, I could describe an incident, for instance. A year before I went through typhus, I was sick on typhus, which was going on in 42 in Plaszow. But there, it was much more cooperation. And in spite of it, the doctor didn't believe that I would survive, because I had a very severe case. It was a few months that I was not able to walk. But I did survive, and I came to this Kajisko. I was physically a little bit back to my normal. Not normal, I mean to a certain extent. But afterwards I got rheumatic fever, which was a high temperature, and I had to go to work because I couldn't get permission to stay back. If you had very high temperature, very high fever, you couldn't go down. You had to stay behind. You had to stay in the camp. And it was going on typhus there, all kind of sicknesses, but typhus especially was very bad there. So therefore, a big percentage of the people were sick. So there was officially doctors, 2 doctors there. Again, they couldn't help much, but they could give me a permission to stay in camp on the ground that I had fever. But I couldn't get the permission because they said I don't have enough fever. So I had to go to work with the fever. Being that I have terrible pain, I couldn't walk. And I said, whatever it will happen, I stayed behind in camp. So one of the policemen, a Jewish policeman, walked over. He came back from work. It's true, I didn't have the permission to stay here. I had to go to work. But then, and it happened to be a friend which I called. I was very friendly with his wife. He just pulled me, grabbed me from the place where I was on the bridge. They called it a bridge. In the barrack there. He grabbed me and pushed me that I have to go. And I tried to explain to him, I can't walk. I have swollen, my ankles, everything is swollen. I have terrible pain. Besides that, he didn't say, he was just hollering, cursing me, and not only pushing, but hitting me. And I couldn't walk, so he pushed me and kicked me with his leg, that I had fallen into the mud. I couldn't get up, so he was kicking me that long until I finally pulled myself up. So he says, you are just making believe that it hurts you that you cannot go. Don't make such a show. So the only response of me is, well, I just wish that you should feel this, what I'm feeling, so you would know how much I am how much I am just making believe.
Did you end up going, or you stayed?
I had to go because he was kicking me all the way, and I knew that there is no escape. And besides this, I had a punishment when I came back from work, that they put me into they had a special place for punishing. That you couldn't sit, you couldn't stay, you could only stay. So they put me for the night there. The racks open from all sides. It was late, it must have been end of November, which was cold. I was not dressed, shivering, and the rats were running all around me. Until this night passed, that was the longest night, I think.
Okay, how
That it passed.
describe the food?
The food was miserable.
Okay.
It was worse than it was in the other one.
So what did you get?
It was also soup which was contained from some kind of starch. What the starch was from, I don't know.
All right. Can you describe the daily routine? Describe the daily routine.
Well, it was approximately, we got 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was counting, and we marched off after getting a little water, coffee, which they called in the morning, a little warm water. We closed. Yes. Coming to work until noontime. We had our lunch. If we got our portion once a week, 2 kilo bread, which was divided into pikes, they call it, pieces of from the 2 kilo, every day as a piece of it. And during the lunchtime, we had a soup, but this soup was provided by the firm. In some places you had to pay for it. It wasn't too much, but you had to have the money to pay for it.
Okay.
And then it was until evening, it was 12 hours work. In the evening we were called together and counted again and went back to camp while we got our portion of soup, which was actually water with starchy water. That was the soup.
There was a question about people killed. Did it happen that people were killed by Germans or by non-German guards? Things like that.
It was by non-Germans, guards, Polish guards mainly, were very mistreated by the slightest accused. If they had accused, they didn't have any means of killing, only by slugging them until he had fallen down.
Okay. Were there any attempts to escape from the camp?
In this camp it was impossible to escape because it was farless. And the rumor was around that there are partisans, Polish partisans.
Oh, so that's the next question. Was there any organized underground?
It was organized not in the camp, it was organized Polish various underground groups. One which was communist groups, one it was a nationalistic groups, but both of them were so anti-Semitic, not only that they, whatever the Germans didn't succeed to kill, they did the job.
So there was no planned resistance in your ghetto at all?
In this camp,
no. I mean,
there was no way of escaping, but by the liquidation, the people organized themselves, some, and escaped. But most of them got killed by the partisans. There were just a few who survived.
Okay. Now, no attempt at cultural activity. Again, there was no time?
There was no time, there was no strength for it.
Are there any children in the camp?
No. The children were liquidated before.
Or by the quarantine?
By the first year, before we came to this.
Now, again, the relations between the Jewish inmates?
Very bad. Very antagonistic.
Okay. And there were no non-Jews here either?
There were no non-Jews, except the one converts which I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Just a small number.
Yeah, because this is just
It's Kazuska.
Okay.
It was just a condition that was impossible. It was no wonder that the people were so vicious actually to one another.
And did you receive help from fellow inmates in this camp that you remember? No. Now, were you sick in this camp? You mentioned before you were sick.
Rheumatic fever, yeah.
And how did you recover?
I recovered just it happened. I recovered walking. It happens that I got permission from the German, which he was the head of the place.
Yeah.
And he belonged to the SR group.
Yeah.
I don't recall exactly the rank of his. He was a high officer. And he gave me a permission of staying in camp for a few days. I recuperated from it to a certain extent.
Was there medical attention in the camp?
No.
No. And the clothing again?
It was our clothing, what we had, and it was just
and all that.
falling apart.
Yeah. Now, you didn't receive any mails or parcels or anything? No. Okay,
no.
So the next camp is Buchenwald. Can you let me close it? We'll start with Buchenwald now. Buchenwald was the next camp. So, can you tell me the date of the arrival and by what method of transportation? So then we can say that for some time too. Okay, go ahead.
Wait a minute. It was August 44. In Skazhevsk, we have gone through a selection which was taking from morning until night. We had gone through 10 times. They took out from 1,600 people, 300 people were selected to get shot. The procedure was done in such a terrible way that it would take too long to describe it. By taking a whole day, through 10 times, they were taking out from the group all these new people. It's very difficult to describe how terrible, how people realize what is going on. And to go through a whole day, a selection like this, it's impossible to describe. In the end, they put us into camps.
That's on.
It was Tishabov when the selection happened. And during this day happened so many things so fast that it's just impossible to...
Yeah, you can. Okay.
So it wasn't of too much help when we came to the city. We got an apartment by a German, which they let us in. There were 4 of us, including my mother. But it was not too much from our aspect. We were very much in danger of being attacked by the Russian itself. So we escaped from one danger, but we were facing a different kind of a danger. And that's what it turned out, that from our girls, we had lost 4 girls from our group that was killed by the Russian. That was after we had been liberated already.
That's it.
And I guess that the bit from then on it started a new period, a new life. But we realized that we really survived, which we did not believe until the last moment.
Okay, go ahead.
It was Antishevov in Skazhevsk when they made the selection that we went 10 times. And events happened so fast and so many things happened that it's impossible to describe them and to follow the events, how they happened. There were approximately 700 people there. 300 were selected out of the groups and got killed, shot, just taken out of the camp and shot. But the procedure, how it happened, it's just too difficult to describe. It would take too much time and it's just impossible to do it.
So the day of the arrival in Buchenwald?
So the first thing was that we didn't believe that they are going to leave us, that they are going to let us out of this camp. First of all, we had been physically so down, and we looked terrible. And
that's what the rumors were going around, that they are going to send us to Auschwitz, that they are going to kill us all, that this selection means nothing, that they are just like fooling with us. But after keeping us in a quarantine for 24 hours, we didn't sleep the whole night. We knew that something was going to happen, that we did not believe that they are going to leave us, that we will survive this camp. Then after being there for 2 days, they kept us under quarantine, and they sent us to another camp in Skajisk, and from there we were packed into the flight class, and 18 people in the car, and they sent us to Buchenwald. That was Leipzig actually. It was also commanded from Buchenwald, a women's camp. But going within the train and with the transport, as they call it, we did not believe what they told us, that we are going to a different place to work, to a different camp, because we went in the direction of Germany, but in the direction of Auschwitz. So as long as we were in Poland, going to Poland, we still were under the impression that we are going to Auschwitz. Until we passed the borders, we saw that we are on the German ground, that we are on the German territory. So then we saw that maybe we do have a chance to survive, that we are going to Buchenwald.
Yeah, and you arrived at Bellevue?
Yes, we arrived there, and there we went through a selection. And from the selection, they did not select too many people out of this group, because we had gone through 10 times before we left the place from Skajisk.
Okay, now the location of the camp?
So when we arrived there,
What's the location?
it was an ammunition factory in Leipzig, outskirts of Leipzig. And the camp was under the administration belonged to Buchenwald.
Okay, and how big was it?
This camp had about 10,000 inmates, but it was international. There were just a women camp, and it was all nationalities. There were French, Russian, Ukrainians, Poles, and Jewish. There were a few English, and I think that there were 2 or so American.
Yeah, and the names of the commanders?
This I don't know.
And the characters you don't know either?
We didn't come too much in contact. We just saw them from afar.
And they were mostly German guards?
That was all German. It was a concentration SS.
Okay.
Women SS, and the men. The men were escorting us to work, and the women were supervising us in the camp and outside the work.
Do you have any incidents that could be used to accuse the individual Nazis as war criminals in this camp?
Well, they all have been, because it were constant incidents of shooting and brutality, like the reasons I don't know even, because the camp was too big to know exactly what was happening. But on appeals, we had to witness all kinds of cruel treatments of some of the inmates.
And the work, you said, consisted of making...
Of ammunition.
The good capos and the bad capos? What about that?
Here it was there was no capos, except it was the administration helping out. It was by Polish and Russian.
Okay, we'll continue. So there weren't any capos here. Okay, how about the food?
The food was relatively better than it was in the other camps. We had approximately the same, but the difference in the quality much.
Because the daily routine was that
basically the same.
With the people killed, yes, you kept on saying that they were always...
This one thing that as soon as we came there, first of all, we had the hygienic condition were much better than it was before. In comparison, we consider Buchenwald a sanatorium
compared to the others. Okay, were there attempts to escape from this camp?
It was impossible because it was the electric barbed wires.
And how about an organized underground planned resistance?
It was not.
No contact with the outside?
It was no contact.
Okay. Were there any attempts at cultural activity in this camp?
Well, a little bit more. We had a little more relaxed because we realized the situation that the war is coming to an end. So we had not been so under pressure as the years before. First of all, we had been in a tent together with other nationalities, and therefore we have been treated different on a different basis than it was before. Before, we knew that our lives are completely hefka.
The Jews, right. But what kind of cultural activity would you say it was?
Well, I wouldn't say it was too much, but eventually there were programs, very few. Some of the girls tried to write, to keep a record of the events. I myself tried to record events in the Polish language, which was originally brought up in it, and that was my language, which I was able to express myself. And I had quite a number of things written down. First, I had the ability to write because I was a bookkeeper. I worked in the factory. I was employed as knowing the language, so I did this.
Were there any children in camp?
No. There were women who were pregnant, came from camp, and they were together with their husband, and they happened to give birth. And were Jewish, and that was on the end of... First of all, they took out, when they saw a woman pregnant, they took her out and sent her with a transport to Auschwitz, as soon as Auschwitz existed. The fact that I myself was in a transport because I had a light heart attack because of my condition. I was working hard. It was after Yom Kippur. It was at the beginning when I was in this camp. I passed out. I had been taken to a revere, a certain kind of a hospital. And there, I didn't get any medication, but just a bed rest. The doctor was a Russian, a war prisoner, and she was the one who made the statement that I'm physically unable to work. And as such, I was under the category to be sent to liquidate with a transport to Auschwitz. Among the other inmates, there was a number of tuberculosis sick inmates, non-Jewish. A Jewish inmate was afraid, even being sick, they were afraid to go into the hospital because they knew that it would be the first one to send away. But through some tricks, I did escape. I wasn't sent. But this is too long of a story for itself, how I escaped this. To be sent. Yeah, I was helped by inmates.
What was the relation between the Jewish inmates?
It was very good, very cooperative, but from the other nationalities, they were the Jewish inmates suffered a lot on account of Polish, Russians. They turned out to be vicious anti-Semites, and the slightest opportunity they had, they used it.
Okay, so the medical attention of Buchenwald was?
More or less, it was no medical attention, but it was sanitary. At least I had a clean bed and a rest. Princess clothing, but that's clean. That was the benefit which...
How about mail?
There was no mail, no contact. There was completely out.
Please describe to me what happened from Buchenwald. That's to liberation then. So we want to know about the
this is again a very difficult thing to describe because in a very short time too many things happened. And these are things which is difficult to describe. Like the first event to interrupt the everyday routine was the beginning of April 45 already. We heard about the things that the Allies are moving quite close to the place where we are. That they are on the German soil from one side, and from the eastern side are the Russians coming. This we only heard indirectly, because we had no way of hearing or reading papers, just what we heard from the Germans that they spoke among themselves. So that was the way how we realized that the war is eventually coming to an end, but the question which was on everybody's mind was if we are going to survive this, if they are going to if they will let us alive, remain alive. And that happened on the beginning of August, that the place was bombed. The ammunition factory was bombed, and they evacuated us. They evacuated the whole place. We started walking in the direction of east from Leipzig, and we marched for 12 days in a row, resting sporadically, just for a few hours, without supplies, food supplies, so very little of food supplies, and it just happened to be very cold. We're just in our prisoners' clothing, which consisted of a dress and stockings, shoes, and April happened to be very cold at that time, and we realized that that these are the ends, the last days of the German Reich. But at the same time, we saw that the people are from exhaustion falling down. They can't continue, and as soon as they sat down exhausted, they got shot, they got killed. So everybody tried to survive. We knew it's a matter of days or maybe hours, but that was the question, if we will survive it. And the 12th day, after walking, we recognized the places that we are walking in a circle, that we have been previously in the same places. Where we were under guard from the SS. On the 12th day, we were divided from the other nationalities, and they chose a group. We found ourselves in a group of 500 only Jewish girls, Jewish women. Then the Shafir, who was under the command of our group, told us that he is going to put us into a private farm, and from now on we are going to be under the supervision of the police, the local police. When we heard this, we couldn't believe that this is possible. We thought that he's again trying to trick us into something. But we didn't have any other choice. We were too weak to run down, even to put any resistance or to undertake anything. Even though that I was constantly thinking of escaping, but I have seen that there is no escaping, there is no way of running away, because as soon as I'm moving out of the group, I'm going to get shot. And besides this, physically, I was impossible to move. I hardly was able to walk. When he told us that he is laying us into a garden, I started to cry for happiness that at least I will have something, a roof under my head, that I will be able to lay down, wherever it is, but to lay down. I didn't care even that we are going to get whatever we are going to do, but just the only thought what it was just to be able to lay down. So that was that they led us into the barn, and we had fallen asleep, and how long we slept, I don't know. It must have been a long time, because as soon as I woke up, I had pain. I had my rheumatic pain started again because from the cold. I had it be continuous on the whole way from the cold. It affected me, came back to So even the others were sleeping, I could not sleep, so I woke up earlier, but I didn't have any sense of time. I didn't know what day or what time it is and how long it is. So, being that I couldn't sleep, I started to walk around, which was impossible because I had to walk over the bodies. But eventually I managed and I walked over to the door of the barn. And coming there, we tried to look out. We were afraid that we are surrounded with the SS, that they might, it's just a pretext, that they will shoot us. And not only this, we were all under the impression that they might burn us all alive. But we were so resigned, so tired, that the mind didn't work. But afterwards, when I was a little rested, my mind started working, and then I couldn't help myself to try to open the door and to walk out to see if there will be some action, what's going on. As soon as I came closer to the door, I found that there was some activity from Ukraine men and women who happened to be working on the farm there. They were volunteer workers. And they told us that we are not supervised, that we are completely free, that there is no SS, there is no Germans, that everybody ran away, even the civilian Germans, the owners of the farm, that they ran away, that there's nobody there. But we still were afraid that they will come, or they are hiding, or they are looking just for an excuse. We still couldn't believe that this is possible, so we still remained there and waiting what is going to happen. But then even the free volunteer workers, the Gentiles, Ukraine, disappeared too. We remained just by ourselves. And then I tried to, with a few others, the stronger ones who had been able to get up, which most of them were not, we start to look around to find out what is happening, what it is. First of all, we were hungry, we wanted some food. And eventually I found quite a distance, a farmhouse, a smaller farmhouse, and they were the civilian Germans there. I got some food from them. I ate myself, and then I took along some fruit, some cheese, and to bring for my mother and for the others. And then when it happened a few days. This I don't recall exactly how long it took. That it came a Russian patrol. And the Russian patrol, when the Germans came back, the Russian patrol gave an order that they should divide us in the village, among the villagers, the farmers, that we have to be supplied with food and with all necessary things. And that was all. I, myself, with my mother and two other women, one happened to be very sick. I think she must have had pneumonia. She was lame. She couldn't move. We were by one farmer. This farmer didn't have workers because all of them, the volunteers, went away. So he was left without help, without working hands. So I was the only able-bodied person from the 4 or 5 people who cared for him. Yeah. So he rather demanded from me work, that I should work for him. I was so confused, I didn't realize whether we are free, or is the end of the war, or what's actually happening, what is it? So then I went to another farm where I met some other girls from the same boat, but they were by Germans who treated them completely different. They catered to them, they cooked. And there I have realized that there is a change at the end of war, and the end of, there's no SS anymore. But I knew that we are in a position that we are Hefker, that there's no supervision. I mean, everybody can do with us whatever they want, and they want any evidence even for it. They would spread around in the whole neighborhood. There was no authority. Then I stayed at the outside on the road to see somebody, but I didn't see it. But for a few hours, while I was sitting, I saw some men approaching, and then I realized that these are war prisoners from Yugoslavia, from other places, and they told me that the Russians are from one direction about 10 kilometers are the Russians, and 35 miles from this place are the Americans. So I wanted to go in the direction of the Americans, but we knew that it's impossible. First of all, that we are in danger to go out, because on the way, on the roads, they might be hidden. And that's what they said, that they are afraid to go because on the way they were forests. And the Germans are hiding in the forests, so they can very easily spot us and see us with our how do you call it, with uniforms, the prison. So we were very easy targets. So we were afraid. I was afraid to move. So then it was a few days that we decided the closest is a city, which was about 2 hours walk to the east of this place. And there are the Russians. Let's go ahead.